Hey, football fans, welcome back to the Super Centex High School Football Friday Night Lights podcast. As usual, I'm here with Waco Trip Sports Editor Bryce Cherry. I'm Chad Conine. Bryce, it's another week of high school football. How do you feel about it?
Any time you have Friday Night Lights, it's fun. We love it. It's probably my favorite night of the week, honestly.
Yeah, and that's saying a lot because you have to really grind on Friday night, kind of pulling together all those scores there in the office.
True that. It is the one time these days that I just, showing people a little bit how the sausage is made. It's the one night I do actually spend in the office in our Tribune-Herald facility. But that's okay. It's a little bit of a change of pace, and I usually eat well on Friday nights. I find somewhere good
around.
All
those options right there.
Yeah,
right?
There's a lot of options.
Yeah.
So,
this Friday night, of course, over at Waco ISD Stadium, they will be inducting LeRoy Coleman into the Waco ISD Athletics Hall of Fame. Very deserving honor for that man. I was talking to one of his sons, Carl, and I told him that I've been doing this for 20 years and you've been doing it for longer than that. And we would both say that Coach Coleman is probably the nicest man we've ever encountered doing this job.
No doubt. I was actually just doing a radio interview with Tom Barfield, and he asked me about Coach Coleman as well. And I said he belongs to the nice guy Hall of Fame. I mean, and we know what they say about nice guys, the cliche, nice guys finish last. At the same time, LeRoy Coleman's football legacy stacks up there with a lot of people. Really the last time University was good, really good, was when he was coaching them, and coached some really good teams, had some great moments in the playoffs, and produced a fair amount of talent too. I mean, guys like LaDainian Tomlinson, Wayne Rogers, Parrish Cox, guys that certainly in LT and Parrish's case went on to play in the NFL. LaDainian's in the Hall of Fame. And I did say this on the radio as well. Think about LeRoy Coleman's legacy. He played high school football with Mean Joe Green, and he coached LaDainian Tomlinson, two guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's not bad guys to rub shoulders with.
Not at all. And he's almost like kind of one of those low profile guys that you'd almost like to have a biography of him, because I was talking to his wife, Geraldine, this morning for the story. And I don't know how much I'll be able to use this in the story. It's one of those great details that you would have to make the whole story about this in a way. But, she met Coach Coleman, I think in 1983, or they were married in 1983, and she met him, before then, but he was already the head coach at University. And she said she was not a sports fan when she met him. And here's this man who's like just spending hours and hours and hours a week watching film, doing what coaches do. And what she told me was that after Coach Coleman got married, life got a lot easier for his assistant coaches, because before he got married, he would just watch film like endlessly. Like he would just be working on his team endlessly, and he described to me, and I asked him what some of the biggest differences were. And, when he first started, he'd get one of these big projectors out and he'd put the film, and he told me they had to learn how to splice the film together. If how the film, when we were in kids, sometimes it would just burn up, so they'd have to learn how to splice it back together. He said when they got VHS, they thought that was the greatest thing in the world. They didn't have to splice the film back together anymore. And then he was talking about when his boys were young, they'd be sitting on his lap and he'd be there with the clicker and just going back and forth watching film. So it's just kind of old school thing you think of with coaches and watching film. And these days you just click a mouse and watch all the highlights and plays and film you want to. But that was a great image of him, and it was great talking to his wife about sort of his journey through coaching, and then kind of following up with him. I talked with Carl, his son. I'm going to try to give Kobe, his other son, a call. His son Kobe was quarterback in 2002, which is I'm kind of focusing on that team a little bit, because they went 8-5, went to the third round of the playoffs. And, they finished second in district and then beat number 8 ranked Terrell in the first round. And then the second round, they go play Palestine, Adrian Peterson's junior year, beat them, and then go on and they played Wiley in the third round and lost a close game against Wiley. And that was the end of that run. But I think since then, University has, I think, won one playoff game in the 19 years. And I texted you yesterday, when Coach Coleman retired, they had 243 wins in program history as of the end of the 2007 season. As we sit here today, 4 weeks into 2021, they had 273 wins. So
yeah, they've had a dry spell for sure since Coach Coleman left. And they had a long losing streak, so that certainly didn't help their win total. But you mentioned the thing about that Geraldine said, where he might have started spending a little less time watching film once he got married and had kids and stuff. That doesn't really surprise me. One, that that he was that devoted to football before, but two, that he made that easy transition to becoming more of a family man. Because when I think of LeRoy Coleman, I think of a guy that invested so much in kids and just wanted to see them succeed in life, not just football. And I think if you talk to, his former players, they would all talk about the impact that, he made on their lives. And the other thing that just always will strike me about LeRoy Coleman is just that smile. Every time you see him, he's just like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Right.
You can see him, 2 days in a row, and it would still be like, he hadn't seen you in 10 years, and how you doing, and I mean, that's just LeRoy Coleman. He's got a genuine heart of gold, and really happy for him, that he's getting this honor on Friday.
Yeah, I'll share another story. I don't think we can go too long on LeRoy Coleman. I mean, I think the material is there. It could just be the whole podcast for that matter. But he's such a nice guy. In fact, he complimented my beard today, which nobody ever compliments my beard unless it's a waitress that wants a bigger tip. So he's such a nice guy that you think, how does this guy get these guys to play this nasty game of football and be the kind of brutes they need to be on the field some of the time, and Carl was telling me, this great thing that you can totally see and understand that, in practice, whenever, and Carl said he's taken this into his own coaching. In practice, sometimes, you jump on a kid, you're hard on a kid, you're all over a kid for all day during practice. And he said, whenever that would happen, Coach Coleman would make a point of, before that kid left the field house, going and saying something encouraging to him. And so that's kind of, you can see that dichotomy. Once he gets into business, he's going to be all about business. But then once the work is done, he's going to make sure that kid knows that he's cared about and cared for. So. Yeah,
that's to me, that's just the sign of a good leader, is someone who can offer that constructive criticism, because that's what it is. I mean, he's just wanting to make that kid better, and show him where he screwed up, and then, but before the end of the day, remind them, how much they mean to him, and the positive side of it, the productive side of it. So I think that's a great way to lead, and certainly he's still doing it as an assistant coach at La Vega, still coaching some pretty dadgum good offensive lines these last few years. He loves, I'm sure he talked to you about this, but the gig that he's got right now, because all he does is show up and coach.
Yeah. And we talked about the difference between head coaching and being an assistant. And of course, they had that peg. They know what that is. Okay, so I'm making a transition now into continuing to talk about Coach Coleman, but also a couple other guys. And one of my favorite bands, Drive-By Truckers, has a song called "The Three Alabama Icons," right?
Okay.
And so I got I dubbed them the three Central Texas icons, right? Which Coach Coleman, LeRoy Coleman at University, Johnny Tusa at Waco High, and Kent Bachtel at Midway. And those three, and three biggest schools in the area, and they held down those jobs from around 85 or 86 in Tusa and Bechdel's cases. Actually, 86, maybe 87. Coach Coleman from 81, I believe, on at University, and they were all there up through, I think Coach Coleman moved on in 07, and then Coach Bechdel and maybe Coach Tusa both after the 09 season, or Coach Tusa might have been a year before that. Anyway, into the 2000s, without, getting into the specifics and not doing better research on my part, but a long time for all three of them. Just your thoughts on the three Central Texas icons and what they kind of meant to the local landscape.
Yeah, of course, they were the guys at each of those three schools when I got to Waco in 1998 and got to know each of them, I would say, very well. To me, I've always said Kent and LeRoy were like peas in a pod in terms of, you could would have had a contest of who's the nicest guy you've ever met, and they might have finished in a dead heat. And that's not to say anything disparaging about Johnny Tusa, who I also feel like is a great guy. Johnny to me always had a little bit more of an edge, and not in a bad way at all. But, I always would do my Bechdel impression, Bryce, they're just good kids. They're just good kids, Bryce. We're just not very good. Which I don't think he ever said that, but yeah, I mean, each of them leaves a lasting legacy at their school. Of course, we lost Kent Bechdel, a couple years back, and that was tough for his family and everyone really that knew him. Did an incredible job there at Midway through an era where they hadn't had maybe some of the urban sprawl yet, where they had kids moving in from some different districts, and once Midway was able to get more of those kids, you saw some of their athletic ability kind of climb, and they made some deeper runs. And so, but he did a great job. Johnny Tusa at Waco High, we talked about him. He went into the Waco ISD Hall of Fame earlier this year. And it's cool how I think they've done it with Johnny going in on a night when Waco High was playing. And then, of course, LeRoy going in on, I think they're calling it the LaDainian Tomlinson Classic on Friday night or something like that.
Oh, I was not aware of that. I'll have to check into that.
Yeah, I believe that's what they're calling this game. So, a neat way to do it, basically, to have Johnny there on a Waco High night and LeRoy there on a University night, because they're both synonymous with those schools.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you could make a movie of it, or just kind of like sort of this cool kind of gritty idea that Coach Coleman, who, has bad knees and doesn't get along real well. I mean, doesn't get around real well some of the time, kind of slow moving, uses a cart a lot on the practice field. He'll go out there on Friday night, get that award, then he'll probably have to ride a golf cart back up, to the parking lot and everything. But then the next morning he'll get himself to the airport in Waco. He's going to fly down to Corpus Christi, or actually have to fly to Dallas, switch flights, fly to Corpus Christi, and then coach a game on Saturday when La Vega plays Corpus Christi Carroll, I think. So, that's a perfect picture of a high school football coach, isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and he's never been one, probably all three of those guys have been always humble enough to not be people that hogged the credit. So I'm sure he'll, be a little bit sheepish about, the ceremony on Friday night, but certainly worthy to be honored. And then, like you said, go get on a plane and get back to the grind. I mean, that's what he knows.
So those were the kind of icons of their era, not to leave out anybody. There's been a lot of coaches that had long tenures and were during that period. But so now, you have different eras of high school football. And I love going through the microfilms and looking back through different years and seeing, Friday, Saturday papers, who was good that year and who was playing meaningful games that we were covering. Obviously, we're in an era now when Mart and La Vega sort of define the era. Anybody else you would kind of put in that category of who defines, this 2021, this kind of right in the middle of the COVID era kind of deal?
Defining the era right now?
Yeah, that we're in.
I think you might throw Lorena into that mix. And certainly they haven't made quite the runs that La Vega and Mart have in terms of getting to state championship games and that kind of thing and winning state. We'll see how this year turns out because
they've been consistent though.
Yeah, they've been consistent. And the thing that I would say is they've been resilient. I think they exemplify their head coach. I think in Ray Biles, I think he's a guy that always, I feel like, has maximized every ounce of talent he's given. And when he's got a team that has a little bit more talent, they do pretty stinking well. And I think this is a team this year. I mean, let's just put it out there. They have the chance to not lose again.
Sure.
Will that happen? Obviously, there's a lot of good teams out there and they could get beat on a night sometime in late November, early December. But do they have the chance to play all the way to Christmas and win them all? Heck yeah, they do. I mean, and certainly they've challenged themselves in the non-district portion of their schedule. And like I said, to me, they're just resilient. And if you want a team that exemplifies resiliency in the COVID era, I mean, I think that's what you want. And so Lorena, throw them into the mix. You might throw the Crawford-Pirates into that mix along with Mart and La Vega.
And the Bell family at China Spring.
So certainly,
bridge the gap, that previous era to this era, going from Mark to Brian.
Yeah, and another team I think we're going to keep our eye on for the rest of this year because they're playing lights out. I mean, and got a little love. I don't know if you saw it, but from Texas football, there was a tweet where it showed a play from China Springs game this past week, and it was like, watch this. This is the kind of effort you need. And it was a guy who'd gotten beat at the line of scrimmage on defense and then hustled back and didn't give up on the play and made like a strip, of the ball, and China Spring got it back.
I guess that would have been Isaiah Williams.
It might have been Isaiah Williams. It didn't say in the tweet. It just, it put a little arrow on him and he, ran after the guy, didn't give up on the play. And when I first saw that tweet from Texas football, I was like, that looks like China Spring, those powder blue uniforms, and it was. So,
well, I know he had a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and an interception return for a touchdown. He was our WacoTrib.com Defensive Player of the Week. And anybody watching this podcast just now, have fun voting on that thing. Do not email us about it. We will not answer your voting questions. Okay.
Oh gosh. Yeah. It's a little bit, first of all, out of yours and my hands. We don't have really any
right.
say or any, we don't do anything for that poll.
Right.
Our web guy, Win Emmons, you want to email Win, I guess knock yourselves out. I'm sure Win's hating me saying that right now, but but yeah.
Let's put it this way. If I tweet something about Ted Lasso and you want to email me about that, then I might be inclined to respond to that, and certainly more inclined to respond to that than I would be about the WacoTrib.com Player of the Week poll.
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, that brings me to my next topic.
Very smooth.
You watch TV, you watch Netflix, huh?
I said very smooth.
Yeah, it was really smooth. You watch Netflix, right? You watch Netflix. You don't have Apple TV though.
I don't. I have Netflix. I have Amazon Prime TV, which you get some stuff on that.
Right.
But I don't have the Apple Plus. I've heard many, many good things about Ted Lasso. Would really like to watch it, but obviously I have not seen it. So,
well, you know, I think you get a free week's trial, but you're going to have to pick a not as busy time of year to do it, because
to really binge all of
there's
those
2
episodes.
seasons now. There's 20 something episodes, and so I don't know that you could get through them in a week.
Yeah, I'd have to wait until a little bit slower time, maybe January.
Or if you get quarantined again, maybe you watch it then.
Yeah,
right?
we don't want that.
Don't want that. It's not worth it. But the reason I ask, and the reason I put TV talk in here to finish up today is it's the first Wednesday night, and this is exciting for me. I'm probably the only one, you know, in the newsroom or whatever, or that we know, but I love the Chicago TV shows on NBC. Chicago PD in particular I think is a great show. Chicago Fire has turned into a little bit of a soap opera. I'm not as big a fan, but I'll watch it. You know, there's attractive people on it, so I'll watch that show. Anyway, that first episodes are tonight. You got any TV shows like that you know actually have a fall season that you get into?
Yes, absolutely. And one quote unquote new one that I already have set up my YouTube TV to I guess record or whatever.
Because you must have cut the cable, right?
I did. I cut the cable. I'm on the streaming with a lot of people, but so is the Wonder Years. I want to see the Wonder Years reboot. The Wonder Years, the original, probably my favorite show of all time. Love the Wonder Years. Used to watch it religiously on into college. There was a guy on my dorm room hall that I'm really good friends with. We were in each other's weddings. Dave, who would record every episode on VHS videotape. So I'm interested to see this new adaptation of the Wonder Years. I don't think it's like Kevin and Winnie. I think it's new characters with Don Cheadle, I think, as the narrator.
As the narrator. Right.
So that should be. I'm interested to see that. Shows that I've already been watching that I'll be interested to watch again are New Amsterdam, which is like a hospital show.
Okay.
They got a little.
That's on NBC as well, I think. NBC has like 14 hospital shows.
They got a little preachy last year, and I didn't. There was a lot of social justice type plot lines that I thought they went a little overboard with.
Right.
But I like that show. It's a good hospital show. And then This Is Us. I don't know if you have ever watched that. It's a good show. It's a good drama.
Yeah, it's a good drama. It's too much for me.
It's too saccharine.
Yeah, it's like it's maybe the same thing with Friday Night Lights. I just can't do that to myself emotionally every week.
Yeah, it's a lot. And when the dad, I'm not, if anybody's watching, spoiler alert, when the dad, Jack, when they showed how he died, that was rough. That was maybe a season.
Oh, yeah. Not interested. Interested.
Anyway, those ones, and then maybe on a lighter scale. Again, these are all network shows. I do watch a lot of stuff on Netflix and stuff too, but there's a show called American Housewife. That's a comedy. It's a basically old school sitcom, but the lady who her name escapes me, who plays the lead character in it, very funny, and that shows that. Well, I've been watching that basically since it started, and it's probably in its about 5th season now. She's really funny. Katie Otto is her character's name, and it's basically about a family that lives in this very snooty, affluent, like Connecticut type area, and she's a lot more, I wouldn't say white trash, but like but certainly more middle class oriented. They must have some money to live there, but she's just like, I can't put up with all these rich people.
Kind of like Roseanne in Highland Park or something like that.
Yeah, or kind of the inverse of Schitt's Creek.
Okay, yeah.
Can we say that?
Right, yeah.
Can we say that on? I guess we can say that.
It's the name of the show. It's on network television. We're not. It was on cable television.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Ted Lasso might as well have been a character created specifically for Bryce Cherry.
I have got to watch this show.
Yeah.
I really want to watch it, so maybe I will.
And the same way, as much as Ted Lasso is a character created just for you, I feel like Roy Kent on that show is a character created just for me.
Okay.
So you'll understand that once you start watching.
I'm gonna say something else here. So you were very early on The Office.
To some extent, yeah.
You were on it before a lot of people I knew, and I remember you and what was the trib reporter who covered rodeo for us? She was
Erin Quinn.
Erin Quinn. You and Erin were talking about The Office one time, and I was sitting there, and I hadn't watched it much yet, or I probably not at all. I love The Office now, and you tried to say something like, "Well, Bryce is just Dwight," and I was like, "Look, dude, I know enough to know Dwight's a friggin' dork." I was all mad at you.
Oh, I said you were Dwight.
Yes. No. Yeah, you were. I think trying to build yourself up to Erin first of all, by calling me Dwight, but I got mad at you because I was like, I'm not Dwight. So anyway,
the interesting thing, Steve Fontenot.
If you came for high school football, I hope you checked out 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't have any way to bring it back. But you remember Steve Fontenot, right?
Yeah.
The copy editor, right?
Yeah.
He was the dude that when I was into The Office, like you think I was an early adapter for The Office, he was that like snobby guy that was like, oh, well, it's not as good as the British Office, And
you know what? I recently, within the last 2 weeks, found the British Office on one of my streaming platforms, and I've read books about The Office. I already knew that the pilot of both episodes were like a shot for shot.
Right. Yeah.
Replication.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and put on the pilot for the British Office, and I was just like, meh. Maybe I realize it's the inspiration for the American one, but.
Well, see, the thing about the British Office is you have to watch it with subtitles, or you won't understand any of the dialogue.
That's fair.
The other thing is,
I probably should have done that because you do get lost sometimes with the accent.
Right, and then the other thing is, the boss in the British Office, who's David Brent, is way more cringy than Michael Scott.
Michael Scott had some cringy moments.
Right, but they, compared to David Brent, they softened Michael Scott up and made him lovable.
Yeah, and it's one thing in this one book I read about The Office that they talked about was when The Office really kind of, I think, found its groove is when they started to humanize Michael a little bit more and make him a little softer, make him like not just the jerk, but the guy that really sort of like craves everyone's attention,
Right. All right. So that's the Super Centex television podcast for the week. Next week, we'll dive into literature for you.
I guess so.
Look out for the LeRoy Coleman feature.
When are we doing the food podcast? Because I'm all in for the food podcast.
We need to do just rotate food, TV, music, books.
Right. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
hope you enjoyed it.
That's all, folks.